The word vim implies energy or to be energetic. It's not a very commonly used word. I think it certainly applies to the word that'll make up that show.
The work is very advertising looking. It's very steeped in the history of signage, which I love. I love old signs. In a sense, my work immediately involves this sort of nostalgia because it's not vinyl. It's crafted, hand-painted, and I think there's a certain nostalgia or a warm feeling that people get for this sort of presentation of words over what they're used to seeing in billboards and things these days. What I really love about it, and what I'd love to try to get to someday in my life, this sort of idea of the sign painter being unknown, an ambiguous person. No one knows who painted a sign. And so here I am, an artist, making stuff that looks like signs. I would love to, at some point, be sort of divorced from it, as who is the maker.
The work is not narrative based, really. It's purely pretty abstract. I've really started to think about where I am, where I work, where I live, what's becoming me as a person and defining me is the suburban place that I work, and the place that I not only work as a day job but also work as an artist. I'm interested in the conflicts that exist within that realm. I want that to be the thing that people take away from the work, is that conflict. Not necessarily suburbia or anything like that, but the tonal nature of the conflicts I feel like are almost territorial. The sort of abstract gestural backgrounds with the geometric hardline foregrounds that are territorially battling it out to see who gets the final say. And I think that there's an ability to find harmony within that battle.
When I started painting, I had very little mark making in my work. I was more about getting things slick and right. And then I had this revelation. I was out looking at art and I realized that some of my favorite art pieces were not really drawn accurately at all. It wasn't important. And even if a chair, you could never sit in it, it could still be like the most fantastic chair you ever saw or connected to emotionally. And so that's when I just threw all of that junk that I didn't need in my head away and just started drawing and writing whatever I was thinking about it without any fear about what it looked like. I just said what I was thinking, and maybe it stayed in the painting and maybe it didn't. It allowed me to hit on a whole new level where I could really engage with the work more intimately. These tangle paintings are all about the energy and the freedom of the energy when you just let it happen and not trying to be as controlling as sometimes all of us can be, and especially me, and I'm just celebrating that.
My attraction to clay is, part of it is process. There are certain steps that have to be followed in order for the clay to end up in the state that you want it at the end. You know, I grew up in a steel town and I worked in those mills through high school or through college. You know, manual labor types of things are very familiar to me, and this has an element of that feels very comfortable. It's a sort of a conversation with myself as I'm making these things and putting them out there. Certainly there's a lot of ambiguity to it. There's a little bit of fun to it. There's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of Walt Disney, and a little bit of Black Sabbath. A little macabre, but certainly a lightheartedness to it, and with a layer of sarcasm throughout the whole thing. This is a continuation of things I've been doing for the last few years, and it's kind of rooted in lyric and in music, and sort of playing off lyrics or music that means something to me, whether it's nostalgic or it's just a well-written poem that I really respond to. And so all of these pieces in the show that I'm making come from that.
When you actually walk into the show, then you realize the connections, whether it's color, design, humor, craft. I think those will be the things that tie the show together.